Thank you all for coming. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to address you. Let me introduce myself the way I do all over the Commonwealth of Virginia. My name is E.W. Jackson. I'm not using Bishop for purposes of the campaign because I don't want anybody to think I'm running to be pastor of Virginia. I'm not ashamed of my Christian faith, but I'm running to be the United States Senator for Virginia. And that means that I want to be able to represent people of all backgrounds, of all faiths, who live here in the Commonwealth. But my name is E.W. Jackson, and I am not an African American. I am an American. I am not bifurcated. I'm not hyphenated. I'm not demarcated. I'm one American. And I deeply love this country. And you know, that introduction always gets a very good response. But let me tell you why I use it. Because I am deeply concerned that we have leadership in our country today that is seeking to divide us on the basis of race rather than uniting us on the basis of one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we've got to stand up and speak up against it. Our country is not perfect, but this is the greatest nation on earth and has offered more opportunity, more prosperity to more people than any nation that's ever existed in human history. And I get to be a beneficiary, and you get to be a beneficiary of that great freedom and opportunity. We don't have anything to apologize to people for. We don't owe the world an apology. The world owes us a debt of thanks because the blood of our soldiers has been spilled all over this globe for the freedom not only of Americans, but for the freedom of others as well. My ancestors were slaves and then sharecroppers in Orange County, Virginia. And while I was not born in Virginia, my family dates back to the Revolutionary War in Virginia. And so coming to Virginia for my wife and I was a kind of spiritual coming home. We've been to Orange County many times. And there are people who say to me, how can you, as a black man, love this country the way you do? Why do you love it? Look at the history. Look at the background. And I tell them this very simply. We may have all come on different ships, but we're all in the same boat now. And so we've got to learn to work together. We've got to learn to work together for the good of our country. I believe that we ought to love this country because it's a gift from God. And it's been a gift to us. It's a gift to humanity, frankly, because we've been a beacon light of hope and freedom to the world. But it's also a gift to our children and our children's children. And it deserves the preservation that we are fighting to make sure it has. Freedom and opportunity and prosperity for all who are willing to put their hand to the plow. And so that introduction is becoming more meaningful because I can tell you something that you ought to be aware of. People are asking the wrong question in this race. They're asking the question, who is most likely to win the primary? That's the wrong question. The question is, who can defeat Tim Kaine in the general election? That's the question. And the fact of the matter is that they are going to play games in this election, some of the most vicious games we've ever seen. And we need somebody who can stand up to Tim Kaine and put him and put his president, for whom he is frankly the sycophant, in place. And I'll tell you something. Tim Kaine is a graduate of Harvard Law School. And I also am a graduate of Harvard Law School. Tim Kaine drank the Kool-Aid. I did not drink the Kool-Aid. So I can't wait to face him in the general election and deal with the specious nonsense that he put forth as governor and that he will undoubtedly put forth as a candidate for the United States Senate. The question is, who can win this seat in the general election? People say, well, you can't outraise the front runner. You can't raise as much money. Folks, it doesn't matter. Once the primary is won, the money will be there. Right now, the question is a grassroots question. The question is, who can inspire and motivate people and convince people that they will have a champion in the United States Senate so that when they get up on June the 12th, they say, I'm going out and I'm voting for my guy because I know when he gets there, he's going to fight for me without any apology. And I'm telling you all right now, as a Marine Corps veteran of the Vietnam era, Thank you very much. But if you send me to the United States Senate, I will fight like a barnyard dog in order to make sure that our freedom is maintained. Folks, I'm 60 years old. I don't care about a political career. I care about my country. And I want to make sure that all that we have and all that we have inherited is preserved. And that's why I want to go to the United States Senate. I didn't decide 30 years ago that I wanted a political career. I decided after this last election that citizens have got to stand up. They've got to stand up. I haven't, other than volunteering, I haven't worked for any politician. I haven't been on any politician's staff. I haven't held any elective office. And of course, some people say, well, then you're not really ready for the United States Senate. But you know what? You look at what we've got now. I'm confident that I can do as good a job as anybody up there. So I hope that you'll give me that opportunity. Look, I've got just a few more minutes. People are hearing from a lot of candidates. A new one just jumped into the race. And everybody is hearing from most of the candidates the same thing. And I believe that I am the only one who is saying something different. All of us agree that we are in a fiscal and economic crisis, that we are at the precipice. We could be facing economic cataclysm. The President of the United States is going to use this last deal that, by the way, Republicans participated in to raise the debt ceiling $1.2 trillion. We will be faced with a debt of $16.4 trillion by the time he's left, maybe more. At some point, we will hit the wall. The situation is grave. It is serious. Frankly, it's virtually unspeakable, the point to which we've been brought, this great nation, brought to the point of economic collapse. It is a serious problem. But what I've been saying is this: the budget is ultimately not the problem, and the spending is ultimately not the problem. The ultimate problem are the rejection of American values that got us to the point where we think we can spend and spend and spend the American people's money without any thought of where it takes us. The problem are values that say that the money that you make somehow belongs to the government. And the government, by its largesse and its beneficence, will allow you to keep some of it. That's not the way it works, folks. The government doesn't have any money. It doesn't make any money. It can print money, but all it does is dilute the money that we earn. The value of personal and individual responsibility, freedom, personal entrepreneurship, risk-taking, all of these things are being undermined, and we're being offered a counterfeit vision. A vision that says, no, it's not the individual effort that matters, it's the collectivist will that matters. And so, by the collectivist will, we can tell Boeing, you can't put a new plant in South Carolina because we just don't think it's a good idea or that it's helpful to the unions. Or says, you can't do what you want to do with your own property because we have a better idea about what's good for the environment or what's good for zoning or what's good for our purposes, and we will dictate to you what you can do with your property. An attitude that says we can tax you and tax you and tax you because we're doing good things with your money. We're redistributing wealth. Well, I want to remind you that Thomas Jefferson said the government that's big enough to give you everything you need is big enough to take everything you have. And folks, our founding fathers were not only ingenious, they were inspired. They founded this nation on a unique principle that no other nation's ever been founded on. What they said was, our freedom, our rights don't come from a king. They don't come from a potentate, a president, or a government. They come from our Creator. And they are inherent in who we are as human beings, that we are born free. And now we're being told, no. You're not endowed by your Creator. You know, the president's taken to quoting the Declaration of Independence and leaving the Creator out. No, you're endowed by government. We will create new rights for you. We will make you happy. You know, I love this. The founder said that we have unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Along comes the government and says, no, we will mandate your happiness. We order you to be happy. And if you're not, we will mandate some more things that will make you happy. So we'll order you to have health care. We'll order you to do certain things, and we'll make sure that you're happy. It doesn't work that way. And to the extent that our people buy into that, they are slowly selling away our freedom. And folks, that's what's at stake. It's not ultimately the economy and the public fists that are at stake. These are symptoms of a deeper problem. It's like suggesting that if you have a cancerous tumor, that you can somehow excise part of the tumor and everything is fine. No, you got to get to the root of that thing. You got to deal with the malignancy. And the malignancy is a counterfeit vision that tells us we're a different nation than what we've always known ourselves to be. And we've got to stand up and fight for the vision that our founding fathers gave us of liberty and opportunity. That's really what's at stake. Freedom, folks. There's nothing like it. There's no substitute for it. To be able to get up every day and chart the course of your own life with the help of Almighty God without having the heavy hand of government telling you what you can and cannot do, where you can and cannot go, where you can and cannot work. I mean, think about the people who've been put out of work because the government's determined off the Aleutian Islands that the seals don't weigh enough. And so we'll put the fishermen out of business so that the seals can gain some weight. I mean, it would be funny if it weren't so tragic. But this is what we're faced with. And so ultimately, folks, it's freedom that's at stake. And I just want to leave you with this. We're going to win this thing. We're going to win it. We're going to win. We're going to win. Because freedom beats in our intellectual and spiritual DNA. It's who we are. That's how this country was built. It wasn't built by the hand of government. It was built by Americans toiling and struggling and risking and sometimes dying, trying to fulfill their dreams, instilling those dreams in their children and their children continuing to pursue a better life. I was raised in a foster home. My father was a welder, 33 years in Sunship Building and Dry Dock Company, but because he believed in America and he instilled in me the right to dream and to reach, I ended up going to the top law school in the country. I wasn't spoiled by it because I had values that were instilled in me about the nature of life and the nature of this country. That's who we are as a people. And we can't let anybody take that away. You give me the chance to go to the United States Senate, I'll tell them, look, the American people don't work for the government. The government works for them. Let's get it straight once and for all. My favorite story, one of my favorite American stories, is the story of the Liberty Bell. Because it touches on my hero, my American hero, George Washington. George Washington is my inspiration. And believe it or not, let me be quick to say it. Folks, I never met George Washington, but I read about him. And let me tell you, I am no George Washington. But I do admire him. And I draw such inspiration from him because he fought for freedom in this country and absolutely refused the power that was right there at his hands. I long for leadership like that in our country again. Leadership that says, I don't want money and I don't want power. I want to serve my country. But the Liberty Bell was brought here in 1751. First time they rang it, it cracked. And they kept trying to repair it and use it. And, of course, they rang it the last time on George Washington's birthday, 1846. The breach became so great that they couldn't repair it anymore, and it hung silent in Independence Hall ever since, except for during the War of 1812. As you know, they had to abscond with it to Allentown and hide it in a church there until we drove the British out once again. But there's a poignancy to the story of the Liberty Bell. It says on it, proclaim liberty throughout the land unto all the inhabitants thereof, Leviticus 25:10. But the poignancy for me is that liberty was never meant to be in a bell. It's meant to resonate in our hearts. It's meant to be spoken of by our neighbors and transmitted to our children. Folks, we are the repositories of freedom, not a bell. And we have a responsibility now to convey to our family and friends and fellow citizens that freedom is fragile. You know, Ronald Reagan wasn't just spewing empty rhetoric when he said we are never more than one generation away from losing our freedom, from coming to a moment when people look back and say, there was a country in which men were once free. So we've got to stand up and fight for freedom. My favorite hymn, my country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring. And the last verse, that second verse, that is a prayer. Our Father God, to thee, author of liberty, to thee we sing. Long may our land be bright with freedom's holy light. Protect us by thy might, our God and King. I believe that generations yet to come will look back at this moment with more clarity than we see it now and realize how dangerous a moment it was. And I want them to render a verdict, and I don't want it to be that they face that challenge and refuse to stand up. I want them to say they met the challenge. They overcame the threat. The flag still flies. Freedom prevails. And America is still the last best hope on earth. Thank you all. God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you. Thank you all.